Dr. Henry Kissinger, former U.S. Secretary of State and a personal friend of the now late Princess Diana, formerly Diana Spencer. She became known to the world at age 19. She died what is now last night in Paris at the age of 36. I am reminded that 750 million people in 74 countries tuned in to see the wedding of Diana to Prince Charles. 2,650 guests were there for it. Keith Miller, you're still with us, correct?
Yes, Brian.
Keith, as we look at pictures and talk about that day, and then there were the years to come. But here's the quote from the Archbishop of Canterbury, quote, "Here is the stuff of which fairy tales are made." And that is how it started, after all.
That is, in fact, how it started. It, of course, became a fractured fairy tale in the end because of all the tragedy and controversy around the marriage. But in fact, you've got to keep in mind that when they were married, this was perhaps the biggest social occasion in the world. As you mentioned, the numbers of people who tuned in to see the marriage. And shortly afterwards, the interest in their marriage never at all dimmed. In fact, at the birth of each of their children, there was tremendous outpourings of joy in Britain and around the world that a future king had been born. And people followed their relationship very closely because of the fairy tale nature of it. I think all of us were keeping an eye on it, saying, well, isn't this interesting, this young beautiful woman married to the future King of England, and watching this relationship blossom. And as we all know, it turned bad. As many marriages do, it started to get into trouble. Unfortunately, we perhaps found out too much about it. There was too much talk, interviews. As we know, Prince Charles admitted on air to adultery. Princess Diana was involved in several scandals involving
his wife, Nicole Kidman. He, too, has condemned the behavior of press photographers. And I think there is a widespread view that something needs to be done. It's very difficult to know quite what to do. Some countries, France is one, have privacy laws which effectively prevent publication of articles which people don't like, which intrude into people's private lives. But, of course, French magazines turn out to be one of the best markets for the sort of photographs that we've seen in recent weeks of the Princess and Dodi Fayed. Here in Britain, we have no privacy laws, but we do have a voluntary code of practice which our newspapers adhere to, which says again that one shouldn't intrude as a newspaper or a journalist into a person's private life. But very often that code is either broken in the letter or in the spirit. And in other countries, the press are very much free to do what they like. The problem is that paparazzi, commercial freelance photographers, spend a great deal of time chasing after celebrities because they know that the pictures will fetch large amounts of money. They'll go for an enormous amount in syndication in magazines and newspapers around the world. And even if newspapers and magazines in one country or another don't buy them for some reason, there are plenty of other countries that will. You have here a free market. It's very difficult indeed to stamp out this business of harassment and stalking and platoons of photographers following around after celebrities.
It's important to emphasize, isn't it, Nick, that this is a freelance issue, an issue of freelancers who decide to, as you put it, stalk and happen.
And he's listed in a grave.
So much at 36 years old.
Dead of lung hemorrhage. They actually had...
Miller so correctly put it, the mother of the future King of England and the ex-wife of the future King of England. Keith, we have to get to the other aspect of this tonight because, after all, they are questioning, if you are to believe some press reports, up to half a dozen people that were on motorcycles, photographers, apparently paparazzi, and the assumption here is, and eyewitness accounts will...
After the accident would go to the cause of the accident, which we strongly believe was caused by photographers pursuing Princess Diana at very high speed, and the car went out of control, apparently. Jean?
What do we know much of what happened in that tunnel?
Well, not a whole lot, except the eyewitnesses that we had on the air here earlier described a very long squealing of tires as the crash occurred. Now, I should say that the tunnel itself can be a very confining thing. If a car is out of control, there's no place for it to go except into the walls of the tunnel or the support pillars in the middle of the tunnel. So there was really no place for this car to go. And when we saw the pictures of the car being brought out of the tunnel, it's clear the impact was close to an explosion. In fact, police called it an explosion, explosive impact.
Jim Bitterman, please stand by. We're going to listen now to a French doctor who made the announcement there of Diana's death.
Tonight's accident is a terrible tragedy. The death of the Princess of Wales fills us all with deep shock and with deep grief. And our thoughts and our prayers are with her family and her friends, and with the family and friends of the others who died in the accident. The Queen and the Prince of Wales and the Prime Minister have been informed of the accident and of the death of the Princess of Wales. I should like to take this opportunity to thank the Minister and the French authorities and the medical team here at this hospital for all they have done tonight at the time of this terrible tragedy. Thank you.
And we now have Christopher Dickey on the phone. He is the Paris bureau chief for Newsweek.